Hello and welcome to SwitchScheme. In today's video, I wanted to give you, in the spirit of the spooky season, the top 10 moments in games that scared the heck out of me. All the games on this list are solid, and I would recommend any fan of a good adrenaline rush to hunt them down and play them late at night in the dark. Although my love is for the Switch, a lot of these games are not exclusive to the system. If you like the content, drop a like and sub. If you want to see a specific top 10, let me know in the comments down below. When PT was released, it caused ripples throughout the gaming sphere. Hideo Kojima and Guillermo del Toro released a playable teaser for their upcoming game Silent Hills. The teaser is simple: a hallway, with little more to do than walk down the corridor and check out one of the rooms, like the bathroom. The thing is, once you reach the end of the hallway, you go through a door, and end up back at the beginning again, and you repeat this over and over. The hallway will progressively get more dilapidated, and if you pay attention, you start to notice movement and sounds, as if someone is there. The imagery gets even more disturbing as a blood-filled refrigerator hangs from the ceiling, an odd place for such an appliance. Eventually it culminates in a bizarre, mind-breaking set of circumstances involving a fetus, important numbers, vision distortion, and fake crashes. And then there's Lisa. Throughout your time, you'll spot her in the corner of your eye. Maybe you see her at the end of the hallway. Sometimes she flickers in and out with the light. Sometimes you find out she's behind you. And then it's a masterclass of tension and horror, and it will always remind us of what we could have had. The Xbox 360 era of gaming, one of my favorites, and there may just be another Xbox game on here later. Sure, F.E.A.R is not exclusive to the Xbox, but that's how I played it. Now F.E.A.R, or First Encounter Assault Recon, was a game that I knew very little about. I had seen it in the magazines and on the shelves. All I saw on the back was guns blazing and a creepy girl in the front. I was curious. At first, the game felt great. The guns felt good, and they all felt different. And you could smack enemies with almost every weapon in melee, which was actually kind of funny. But then you start seeing Alma, a little girl. As creepy as all little girls are in these situations. But since F.E.A.R was a first-person shooter, there was always the tension of wondering when she would show up. Sometimes she's at the end of a hallway where she just walks through the wall. Sometimes she appears as soon as you open a door, killing someone in the other room. Sometimes you just try to simply climb a ladder. This has always been one of my favorites, and the adrenaline rush I felt at the time was the spice of life. Dying Light is not one of my favorite games. In fact, I've never finished it. I personally got a bit bored of its combat and reliance on parkour after about 10 hours in. But I won't lie, it's a very good game. But I did pick up a physical copy for my Switch collection. Running around during the day, jumping from roof to roof, laughing at the uselessly stupid Zed heads below you, is so much fun. Then the sun goes down, and the game decides now is the time to introduce you to the real challenge. Running around Dying Light at night is a trip. You're trying so hard to avoid anything and everything, and sure, it's going well. Until that sound triggered a fight or flight response in my body that I rarely feel. Desperately looking for a place to hide or a safe lit room. Over time, it's not so bad, and you soon realize how to deal with the said things that go bump in the night. But the first few encounters send a shiver down your spine. Remember when I said there would be another Xbox game on here? Well, here it is, and this one is an exclusive. Condemned Criminal Origins is a game like no other. It was released on the Xbox 360 as a launch title, and it was the only launch title that I cared about. I saw the scary cover, which reminded me of Saw, and I was in. I had watched the trailers, which showed off a lot of melee combat, which for me was a new concept. I was heavily into the Resident Evil series at the time, and they relied on guns to fight all the enemies, unlike something like Silent Hill, which uses melee a lot more often. Running through the hallways with just a lead pipe or a wood plank, knowing that around any corner, a guy tweaking on some psychological stuff would just bust out swinging.
Сука, я чуть нахуй не обосрался, блядь. Ой, блядь, еблаза.
It made you walk. It made you walk slow. And it made you take your time. And it made your heart race. Here is our first and admittedly not last Resident Evil entry. As my favorite horror series, I jump into every Resident Evil game ready to sweat and cry from fear. I love letting myself open up to jump scares or tension-filled moments rather than shelter them away by looking for obvious giveaways. That was a huge mistake in RE Village. I was already really into the saw/escape room antics of the Beneviento house, and there were no enemies, so I felt pretty safe. What a stupid mindset to get into. When I heard the first initial coo down the hallway that the baby makes, I was like, huh? Am I gonna find Rosemary's Baby down here or something? Hell no! You find this gargantuan, terrifying spawn of hell crawling towards you.
I'm not afraid anymore! Do you hear me? I'm not afraid anymore!
If I recall correctly, I actually yelped out loud when this thing barreled into view. Running around the halls trying to find that breaker box and hide under the bed so it doesn't find you. Those are tension-filled moments that I absolutely loved, once they were done. Evil Within, a game by the creator of the original Resident Evil, making another survival horror, count me in. I was so ready for this game, and it did not disappoint. Laura is kind of like Resident Evil 3's nemesis. She shows up pretty early in the game and is a constant thorn in your side for 3 or 4 of the upcoming chapters. You can't hurt her, and you can't kill her. Not that you would know that. When she first pops up, it's out of a pile of corpses, and I audibly yelled, "WTF is that?" I tried to kill it, only to die instantly, because at the time, I was unaware that I couldn't kill her. Sure, she shows up a few times later and eventually has a pretty cool boss battle in the incinerator, but that initial meeting got a full reaction out of me and deserves a spot. The Fatal Frame series is one that I truly enjoy, that honestly doesn't get enough recognition. Now that is partially its own fault, as few of the games were Japan only, but the ones we got here in North America were great. Maiden of the Blackwater and Mask of the Lunar Eclipse are on the Switch if you're curious to try one out. This was my first foray into the Fatal Frame series with Fatal Frame 2. I was young, 12, 13 years old, I think. And oh boy, it took me forever to beat it, because it scared the heck out of me as a kid. I loved it, but I hated it. Some of the ghosts in the game were absolutely terrifying. If you have a chance to pick up a Fatal Frame title, definitely do it. My number 1 movie of all time is Aliens, the follow-up to the Ridley Scott classic. I love it. And not too far behind it, probably in the same top 10, would be the original Alien. Now there were 2 things that made me interested in this game. It's a true survival horror, and, even better, it's canon. Now, I was extremely hesitant after the disastrous Colonial Marines release, and I don't really like hide-and-seek simulators, but man oh man did they knock this out of the park. The atmosphere is just perfect, and the tension is cranked up to 11. The Aliens AI was so good, with 2 different AI systems working with and against each other to eventually help the alien find you. This is what made the game so scary. You never knew if the alien, which was extremely smart, would find you under this table or in that locker. And it finding you, sure, that sucked, but the cherry on top is when the slimy jerk ambushes you.
Ah! Oh god! I'm dead! I'm dead! I'm dead! Oh!
It scares your heart right out of the airlock. Another Resident Evil entry, and honestly, not the last one. But Resident Evil 6 was my least favorite Resident Evil, and I will admit, it's the only Resident Evil that I have not finished. I've played every entry, Gaiden on the Game Boy, Outbreak series, yes, even Survivor. But they were unique, and they tried something different with the IP. They were also not part of the main series, so I felt they deserved a little bit of leniency. But 6 was a mainline title, and I personally really like 5. But RE6 was just too over the top with the multiple campaigns and extreme action movie feel to the combat and movement. So when 7 was announced, I was excited, but hesitant. Then, we found out it was in first person, and my heart dropped a little bit more. But then the demo came out, and I really liked it. It gave me some good Blair Witch or Texas Chainsaw Massacre vibes. And then I got the full game, and holy crap, that opening sequence with Mia. I was playing alone in my living room at night on the PC in complete darkness. And I was on edge during the entire opening sequence. It's so good and well made, and it's made even better with the next section where you're being chased around the house by Jack.
Good. Fucking run. Time to amscray. Oh, fucking Jesus Christ! You son of a fuck! Let me go! Ah!
RE7 is such a great game, and that opening sequence and all the scares that were contained within left such an impression on me. Well, we made it to number 1, and if you know anything about Resident Evil, you probably already know what moment I'm going to talk about. And I'm not even sorry. This was the moment that got me into horror games. It's Resident Evil 1, The Dog in the Hallway. This game was my very first foray into horror. I had gone from Super Mario World and Pokemon to Resident Evil 1. Sure, I loved horror movies since I was like 5, but this was different. This was a video game, an interactive experience. This is one of the few times in gaming where I literally had an adrenaline rush course through my body. But even more so, I dropped the controller, I died in the game, and I had to catch my breath. And I will never forget that moment. And eventually, I went back into the hallway, but I was ready. And it has never scared me again, even when the remake tried to redo the same situation, but in reverse. It literally cemented my love for horror games, and a few get a jump out of me now and then, but I cannot recall another time where my body was filled with so much dread that a dog, crashing through a window, ruined my night. So there you have it, 10 of the moments in gaming that scared me. To this day, I love when a game can jolt my system with a jump scare, or make me feel uneasy with some atmosphere. I love horror. I love the culture of horror, and I love the imagination in horror. So what moments in gaming scared you? Let us know in the comments down below. Until next time, this has been SwitchScheme, and I hope you have a great day.